What if the most heartbreaking playoff loss in WNBA history was actually the turning point that changed everything for the Indiana Fever? The 2025 season was never supposed to end with head coach Stephanie White fighting back tears in a Las Vegas locker room. But occasionally, the greatest triumphs come disguised as defeats. This is the untold story of how 6 injured stars, phantom fouls, and a sudden hospital emergency combined to create one of the most shocking playoff games ever witnessed, and why what happened after the final buzzer might be even more important than the game itself. The Indiana Fever entered 2025 with championship ambitions. But by mid-January, those dreams appeared shattered. Caitlin Clark's persistent ankle problems, keeping her sidelined for multiple games, triggered a domino effect that nobody saw coming. Sydney Colson tore her ACL during practice. Aaliyah Boston struggled with recurring knee inflammation. Sophie Cunningham battled through an MCL injury that should have ended her season. And Damaris Dantas missed crucial time under concussion protocols. The team that was supposed to contend for a title suddenly couldn't even field a fully healthy starting lineup. But here's where things got interesting. And if you're watching this right now, drop a comment. Do you think the Fever can bounce back even stronger next season? What happened next defied every basketball expert's prediction. Instead of collapsing, the Fever began playing with a desperation that made them dangerous. Stephanie White's coaching philosophy transformed completely. She abandoned rigid systems and let her players operate on instinct. The results were stunning. They upset the Minnesota Lynx in the Commissioner's Cup with only 7 healthy players. They pushed the Phoenix Mercury to overtime 3 times in a single month. Every analyst called it luck. But something deeper was happening inside that locker room. The real test came when the Fever somehow clawed their way into the playoffs despite everything working against them. Facing the 2-time defending champion Las Vegas Aces should have been a sweep. Vegas had Aya Wilson playing at an MVP level, Jackie Young dominating on both ends, and a roster perfectly built for another title run. Meanwhile, Indiana was signing players off the street just to have enough bodies for practice. The smart money had Vegas winning in 3 games, maybe 4 if Indiana got lucky. Nobody predicted what actually happened. Game 5 in Las Vegas turned into pure chaos from the opening tip. The Fever were already missing key rotation players, forcing Stephanie White to use lineups that had never even practiced together. Kelsey Mitchell, who had carried the offensive load all series, suddenly collapsed on the court in the second quarter. The medical staff rushed her to the hospital for severe dehydration and cramping, leaving Indiana without their leading scorer in an elimination game. That's when things got controversial. Aaliyah Boston picked up her 3rd foul on what a replay clearly showed was a clean block. Her 4th came on a play where she didn't even make contact. By the time she fouled out with 27 seconds left in regulation, on yet another phantom call, even the Vegas crowd was booing the officials. But that wasn't the full story of this insane night. Odyssey Sims played like her life depended on it, dropping 27 points, including several clutch baskets that kept Indiana alive. Every time Vegas tried to pull away, Sims had an answer. A pull-up jumper here, a crafty layup there. She simply refused to let the season end. Lexi Hull, a name most fans couldn't have picked out before the playoffs, delivered defensive plays that saved possessions and hit timely shots that silenced the Vegas crowd. Grace Berger took over point guard duties with Mitchell gone, threading impossible passes and orchestrating the offense with poise beyond her years. This wasn't just basketball. It was pure willpower, raw and unfiltered, manifested on the court. The officiating, however, became so one-sided that even neutral observers began questioning what they were witnessing. Indiana players were getting hammered on drives with no whistle, while Vegas seemed to earn free throws for the slightest contact. Social media exploded with conspiracy theories suggesting the league wanted its marquee franchise in the next round. Former players and coaches began tweeting their disbelief in real time. The disparity was so blatant it overshadowed the game itself, and that's saying something, considering how electrifying the competition was. If you think the refs influenced this game, hit that like button right now, because what happened next would blow everyone's mind. Despite everything, Indiana forced overtime. With Boston fouled out, Mitchell in the hospital, and the refs seemingly against them. The Fever still refused to quit. The overtime period became a living testament to everything this team had represented all season: resilience, unity, and sheer heart. Players who weren't even expected to see minutes in this moment stepped up like veterans. Katie Lou Samuelson buried a clutch 3 to tie the game yet again. Tammy Bentley crashed the boards with relentless energy, grabbing offensive rebounds that gave Indiana crucial extra possessions. Even with exhausted legs and a depleted roster, they matched Vegas shot for shot until the very end. When the final buzzer sounded, with Vegas narrowly escaping with a 4-point win, something remarkable happened. The entire Aces roster walked over to the Indiana bench, not to celebrate, but to show respect. Aya Wilson was seen telling Stephanie White, "You deserve to win that game." Jackie Young embraced every Fever player, knowing they had just shared something unforgettable. And then the crowd, who had cheered for Vegas all night, rose to their feet, giving Indiana a standing ovation as they left the court. It wasn't the ending they wanted, but it was one that redefined who they were. This wasn't how elimination games usually end. What Stephanie White said in the locker room afterward might go down as the most important speech in Indiana Fever history. She didn't talk about the refs, the injuries, or the unfairness of it all. Instead, she spoke about grace, dignity, and what it means to persevere when everything seems lost. She told her team they had shown the basketball world what real heart looks like. That speech, captured on video by a team assistant, has now been viewed over 10 million times across social media. Players from around the league have shared it, calling it the defining moment of the 2025 season. Then, the aftermath revealed even more shocking details. Kelsey Mitchell's hospital visit uncovered an underlying condition that had quietly affected her all season. She had been playing through symptoms that would have sidelined most athletes, never complaining, never making excuses. And Aaliyah Boston's foul trouble? It wasn't random. Statistical analysis later showed she was called for more fouls per minute than any player in playoff history, despite having one of the league's lowest contact rates. The numbers didn't lie. Something strange had happened in that series. But here's where the story took a turn no one expected. 3 days after the elimination, Stephanie White received a call from the commissioner's office. The league was launching a formal investigation into the officiating of Game 5, based on overwhelming evidence of inconsistencies. They couldn't change the result, but they admitted mistakes had been made. It was historic. For the first time in WNBA history, the league publicly acknowledged that officiating errors had influenced the outcome of a playoff game. The admission sent shockwaves through the basketball world. When the investigation's findings were released in late January 2025, they were damning. 2 of the 3 officials from Game 5 were suspended indefinitely. The report documented 17 incorrect calls, 15 of them against Indiana. The phantom fouls on Aaliyah Boston were specifically cited as inexcusable errors that compromised the integrity of the competition. While it didn't change the final score, it validated what Indiana's players and fans had believed all along. They weren't just fighting the Aces that night, they were fighting the system. What made it even more remarkable was how the Fever responded. Instead of dwelling on the injustice, they turned it into fuel for the future. Caitlin Clark, speaking publicly for the first time since her latest ankle setback, said this team showed her what basketball is truly about. Sophie Cunningham, still recovering from her MCL injury, posted that she's never been prouder to wear a Fever jersey. The culture Stephanie White built through adversity has created something special in Indianapolis, and the ripple effects are already being felt across the league. Free agents who once overlooked Indiana are now reaching out, eager to be part of what the Fever are building. The team that was supposed to be rebuilding for years suddenly looks like a destination. Veteran players now want to play for Stephanie White after seeing how she handled the impossible. Young stars want to be part of whatever is taking shape in Indianapolis. The loss that should have broken the Fever has instead become their greatest recruiting tool. Even more remarkable is what's happening inside the current roster. Players who could have demanded trades or tested free agency have all chosen to stay. Kelsey Mitchell signed an extension despite having the leverage to explore other offers. Aaliyah Boston publicly declared that she wants to retire as an Indiana Fever player. The bond forged during that playoff run created something money can't buy: loyalty. It's almost unheard of in modern professional sports, where players often chase the best personal situations. Yet in Indiana, they're choosing unity over opportunity. The Las Vegas series also exposed something larger within the WNBA, an issue that desperately needed attention. The conversation around officiating standards, especially in high-stakes playoff games, has reached a fever pitch. Former players are calling for reform. Coaches are demanding accountability. Fans are more engaged than ever, not just supporting their teams but advocating for fairness across the league. what happened to Indiana has become a catalyst for change, one that could reshape how the game is officiated for years to come. But the real story isn't about the refs, or the injuries, or even that heartbreaking loss. It's about what Stephanie White discovered in that locker room. She found a group of players who redefined what it means to compete. They proved that winning isn't always reflected on the scoreboard. Sometimes it's about heart, unity, and refusing to break when everything is against you. They may have lost the game, but they won something far more valuable: the respect of everyone who witnessed their journey. The 2025 Indiana Fever will not be remembered for falling short, but for showing what's possible when a team refuses to accept limitations. They battled through injuries that would have ended other teams' seasons. They kept competing despite a roster so depleted it should have guaranteed failure. They pushed the defending champions to their absolute limit while fighting against more than just their opponents. This wasn't just a playoff series. It was a masterclass in perseverance, one that will be studied and remembered for years to come. Looking ahead, the Fever are positioned for something truly special. With injured players returning to full strength and a culture built on resilience, they're no longer underdogs. They've proven they belong with anyone, under any circumstances. The addition of free agents inspired by their grit could transform them into immediate contenders. What looked like an ending in Las Vegas might actually be the beginning of something legendary. And perhaps the most telling sign of their impact came from an unexpected source. Aya Wilson, fresh off another championship, said in her post-game interview that Indiana was the toughest opponent she's ever faced, not because of pure talent, though they have plenty, but because of their refusal to break. She called them warriors and warned that every team in the league should fear them going forward. When the best player in the world says that about a team that just lost, you know something extraordinary happened. Because in the end, sports are about more than wins and losses. They're about human spirit, about pushing past what seems impossible, about finding strength in the darkest moments. The 2025 Indiana Fever didn't win a championship, but they won something just as important. They won the hearts of basketball fans everywhere, and they proved that sometimes, the greatest victories come disguised as defeats. If you made it this far in the video, you're a real one. Make sure to subscribe for more untold WNBA stories, and drop a comment below. Did the Fever get robbed, or did this loss make them stronger?